Good evening, everyone. Welcome along to the Debrief live on the Blood Red channel after Liverpool thump Rangers 7-1 in the Champions League. You join me, Patrick Smith and Matt Addison for the first time this season on a Debrief after a Liverpool victory, which is a very, very nice feeling, Matt, isn't it? I mean, we're going to delve into this one because there's so much to talk about. Matt, I'd like to get your general overview to start with on that one because it was a bit of a strange match, wasn't it?
Yeah, a game of two halves. I think we can definitely say that. I think there were some familiar issues. The fact that Liverpool have conceded first again wasn't ideal. They made it more difficult for themselves than what it needed to be. I think there was a couple of issues, I think, structurally and within the sort of midfield area, in particular in the first half, a couple of really open spaces at certain times. I don't think the result in the end should take away from those things. It doesn't mean that Liverpool are now going to go and hammer Manchester City at the weekend. I think this performance and this scoreline was probably more of a one-off, but you'd like to think that it can give one or two players within that team a bit of a confidence boost. Mohamed Salah with, I believe that the fastest Champions League hat-trick. So that's obviously one big good thing for him. His finishing, two of the goals, I think you can probably question the goalkeeper on them, but, it's still good to see him in those positions and being able to score. Roberto Firmino as well, a huge positive. Again, don't think he did a great deal apart from score the goals, but as long as he keeps doing that, you can't really have too many complaints about him. And even Darwin Nunez, I thought pretty poor for most of it, but then scores the goal just before he comes off. So, yeah, plenty of positives. Obviously, for Liverpool, they needed to go there and win, put in a bit of a performance, which they certainly did second half, if not first, and obviously puts them, at a point in the last two games, gets them through. So basically through to the knockout phase, you'd imagine could even happen with results going their way in other fixtures as well. So, yeah, it's the perfect position to be in, really. I think at half-time, if you'd have said Liverpool end up scoring 7, I'd have laughed at you because I very nearly tweeted it, and I'm glad I didn't. I wasn't really too sure where Liverpool were going to get a second goal from, really. It felt like the Simicast corner that Firmino scored from, it felt like it was going to have to be a set piece or something like that. And Liverpool were good. Rangers fell apart. Hopefully it can be a turning point, but let's not get sort of too far ahead of ourselves. I think Rangers in the second half, like I say, really, really poor. Liverpool just took advantage, and hopefully it can be the start of something.
No, I'm in a similar camp. I was in a very negative mindset at half-time myself, Matt, so you're not alone in that one. I normally like to work chronologically on the debrief and go through the match as a whole, but I'm going to bring Mohamed Salah right to the front because just ridiculous. As you mentioned, Matt, the fastest ever Champions League hat-trick. I'm also going to shout out Diogo Jota because he assisted all three, which must be, I think, the fastest ever hat-trick of assists the Champions League has ever seen as well, Matt. He's also only the third ever Liverpool player to come off the bench and score a hat-trick. I'm wondering if you, Matt, can name the other two players?
Fastest to come off? Oh, God.
Just two of the Liverpool players who've come on and scored hat-tricks. They've both got the same first name.
I've no idea. You put me on the spot.
Steven Gerrard and Steve Staunton. So there's a good stat for you. But Matt,
I might have got one of them, but definitely not the other.
Let's bring it back to Mo Salah. I mean, unbelievable from him. 6 minutes, 3 beautiful finishes. He's back, isn't he?
Yeah, well, hopefully he's back. I think that the biggest thing really was just to get him into those positions. I think that's something we've spoken about a lot on these shows and other shows. He just has been far too far away from the goal at certain times this season, and all three of the goals come from similar-ish positions, either inside the penalty area or just on the edge of it. That's where you want to see him, isn't it? That's what Liverpool have got to do. Obviously, there's still a question about how all the pieces of the jigsaw fit together. How does Darwin Nunez fit in? What happens with Diogo Jota? Jota, really interesting, actually, in terms of the assists. I think that's 20 games now without scoring for him. But in that period, does sort of step up with a few important assists. So, yeah, a bit of a change in role for a few of these players. But I think the most sensible thing really is to get Mohamed Salah as close to the goal as possible. And I think we saw tonight what that will do. I think Manchester City will be looking at it and thinking possibly, you've got one or two areas there where suddenly Liverpool look like they can score a goal. Salah is one of them. Firmino is another one. There are starting to be a couple of positives, which is good for Liverpool. But yeah, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens on Sunday. It'll be a very, very, very different game. But yeah, Mohamed Salah hat-trick can be no bad thing.
I mean, that's the thing that's difficult to read, Matt, because we're going to go back now to the start of the game. It was a typical of this season, a very slow start from Liverpool. Could barely string 5 passes together and went 1-0 down away at Rangers. I mean, that shouldn't be happening in Liverpool side match. Showed that it was pretty poor, if we're honest. And if we play like that against City, it could end pretty badly in the first half, couldn't it?
Yeah, exactly. They have to start a little bit quicker. I actually thought the start was okay. It was just sort of isolated moments, really, where I suppose you could kind of say that all season. It was, one moment of Fabio Carvalho loses it. There's a couple of players out of position. Henderson and Fabinho are the wrong side of where they should be. There's a massive gap, and suddenly, someone like Scott Arfield shouldn't be able to just race through the centre of the pitch and put the ball in the back of the net. It just shouldn't be happening. So it's it's a difficult one, really, in terms of kind of how do you analyse it? You look at the scoreline and you say, well, Liverpool were brilliant, and they were in the second half, but yeah, like you say, that second half wouldn't have happened if it was against Manchester City, because City would have been 3 or 4 up at least at that point. So, yeah, it's a really, really hard one to analyse. I think you've just got to take the positives. When you're in a rut of form, as Liverpool are at the moment, of just being really poor, giving away stupid goals, doing stupid things. I think if you score 7 and you go for it and it comes off, I think you've just got to take as many of the positives as possible. They can't ignore what happened in the first half, and I'm sure they'll do work on that and sort of have a think about that moving forwards. I mean, I suppose the other thing is, will there be a 2-man midfield against Manchester City on Sunday? I would be surprised. I think probably it'll be Thiago, Fabinho and Henderson. Obviously, that has been the case already this season. It's not really helped, but you'd like to think that can sort of give them an extra layer of security, really, in terms of sort of moving on from today into the weekend. So, yeah, still a lot to think about. Structurally, I don't think they were perfect, but yeah, second half, it just didn't matter. When you've got Firmino being clinical, you've got Salah in that kind of mood, Liverpool are going to score goals. And I think it would take a brave person to suggest that Manchester City won't score at the weekend. So the fact that Liverpool have gone and scored 7, got themselves into a bit of goal-scoring form, probably not the worst thing, because they're probably going to have to score at least 2 to get a point, I would say, at Anfield on Sunday.
That's the exact thing. It's quite a difficult one to analyse this, because Rangers were always going to fly out the blocks, try and get that goal in the first half and to get the crowd bouncing and sort of blitz all their energy. That's why Liverpool ended up battering them towards the end of the game, to be honest. Well, let's leave the negatives there, because there's so many positives to talk about tonight. We've already mentioned Mohamed Salah, who stole the show from Roberto Firmino, because Firmino's both of his goals were at very important stages of the match. And of course, he got a lovely little flick assist to Nunez, Matt. He's not played in terms of team build-up and, possession-wise to the best of his abilities, but he's probably in the goal-scoring form of his Liverpool career, the best I've seen in a Liverpool shirt.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, he did do a little bit of that last season. He was just injured for most of it, so we didn't see it. If you look at the numbers, sort of per 90, he was getting, good numbers of goals last season and kind of became that player, but then had, I think, 3 or 4 of similar sort of muscular injuries and couldn't get that run of form. But at the moment, it's going really well for him, and long may that continue. I mean, I'm reluctant to kind of go all out on him being, the answer to Liverpool's problems, because I think at some point he probably will pick up another injury. I think he's just at that stage of his career where that's inevitable. And I don't think necessarily that he'll continue in this goal scoring form, because, we've never really seen it. I think he got 27 goals in 2017-18, wasn't it? I think that he did that and hasn't really done it particularly before that or since. So I'd be surprised if he went on and continued this run forever. But I think, for Liverpool, when they've been in such poor form, you've got to imagine really where would they be without the goals that he scored this season. They've often been really important. They've often given Liverpool a bit of a get out of jail card at sometimes, just to sort of give them things. Tonight probably is one of those examples, really. They made it more difficult than what it needed to be, but it was Roberto Firmino who got them level within, a few minutes of going behind. He's obviously taken a bit of confidence, and that flick for the Nunez goal is just the kind of thing really that you want to see. I think it's, with Roberto Firmino, he is a bit of a confidence player. I think he's one of those who will do the flicks and tricks, and when he's scoring and he's in that kind of form and he's confident and he's sort of reveling in that position of being in that kind of headspace, I think it really does work to Liverpool's advantage. So, yeah, great to see. Again, not quite sure how it works with him, Salah, Nunez, Jota in terms of the front 4. I'd be surprised if all of them started at the weekend, but then, which one do you take out? You can't take out Salah, not that you would have done anyway, but you certainly can't after a hat-trick. Firmino looks in good form. maybe it's Darwin Nunez. I know Diogo Jota didn't start tonight because of a little problem that the medical team picked up and he wasn't able to play the entirety of it. If Jota can start, though, on Sunday, you'd probably have to say the form he's in. Maybe it'd be him. So, yeah, it would be harsh on Darwin Nunez to take him out. But I think, yeah, at the moment, it'd be even harsher on Roberto Firmino. I think he's been certainly the best goal scorer that Liverpool have got so far this season. Maybe Mohamed Salah will change that over the next few matches now after what we saw tonight. But, yeah, he's going to have to offer a little bit more, I think, off the ball against Manchester City. But at the same time, if he scores 2 or 3 more goals, I don't think Liverpool really can complain too much.
Yeah, that attacking selection is going to be a big headache that I'm sure we're going to talk about in depth in the podcasts further on this week. I mean, Nunes 2 from 2, you want him to build that goal-scoring form, but you simply can't drop Firmino in this form, can you? I mean, for Firmino's second goal, Matt, Joe Gomez at right-back, a lovely crossed assist. A pretty solid performance from Gomez tonight at right-back. Gives you a bit of hope ahead of Man City, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think he was excellent, and I think it's probably no bad thing to have a defence-first fullback against Manchester City. I think, being a little bit more solid is probably no bad thing. I thought he was excellent. I thought Ibrahima Konate next to him was excellent as well. Virgil van Dijk looked a lot better. Again, it's obviously very different playing against Erling Haaland and Jack Grealish compared to playing against this Rangers team, but you only compete what's in front of you. And I think, Liverpool generally did that. As I mentioned before, the first half, there was 1 or 2 moments where they didn't, 1 or 2 moments where there was a bit of a lapse, but it wasn't really the defence. That was more the midfield and those in front of them that weren't giving them the protection. So, yeah, Gomez, I thought, was excellent. Absolutely world-class ball for the Firmino goal to put into the box. I think that's, an element actually that we saw a little bit of Joe Gomez when he played right back at the back end of last season. There was cross, I think it might have been against Norwich.
I think it was, yeah.
Yeah, that sort of thing, he does have that in his locker. So it's not like you completely lose, without Trent, you completely lose it. And of course, Gomez now has got more assists than Trent so far this season. So it's a good sign, I think. I think Konate worried me a little bit against Arsenal. He was all over the place when he came on. Understandable, given he'd been out. So I think it was an important game for him as well. But yeah, Andy Robertson will come back in, but Van Dijk, Konate, and Joe Gomez, that'll be your back four for Sunday. And yeah, it was a good run out, I think, to get a little bit of rhythm, bit of form from them. And yeah, the assist can be no bad thing because it just gives City something else to think about. I think if Joe Gomez hadn't have done that, maybe, I suppose the reverse is maybe they give him a bit more space. But I do think it just gives Jack Grealish something to think about on Sunday. He can't just stay up. There is a bit of threat from Joe Gomez in that position, and yeah, I'm sure we will see that a little bit on Sunday, even though it'll be a lot harder than what it was tonight. Yeah,
it certainly will be, but it's a massive confidence boost for Liverpool going into that Man City game, and of course, it's a huge boost in the Champions League as well because Liverpool now just need to avoid defeat in Amsterdam against Ajax, and they will go through to the Champions League knockout stages. So things are looking pretty tidy in the group as for that. Well, Matt, we're going to wrap it up there. Thank you very much to all of you watching and commenting along in the YouTube channel. Be sure to stick around with us on the Blood Red channel because we're going to bring you Jurgen Klopp's press conference reaction as soon as we have it. So make sure you're subscribed and sticking around for that one. But for myself, Patrick Smith, and Matt Addison, thank you so much for joining us, and goodbye for now.